Today I want to talk of philosophy, I guess, and the philosophy of having a very firm philosophy but a very flexible approach to how you want to execute that, which I think is important when it comes to clinical dentistry. I think it's important when it comes to business. I think it's important when it comes to life. And what I want to use to illustrate this is a engineering design, an architectural design. In 1977, you can roll these pictures of this. In 1977, Citicorp built a building in New York City. Beautiful, beautiful building, kind of looks normal at a glance from a distance, as you can see there. But what you'll notice as you get closer is that there's no base to this building. It kind of floats in the air, which sounds crazy and insane. But you can see it's built on stilts, and most all the stilts are in the dead center of the building. Now, the reason why this is built, you'll notice in the bottom left there's a funny looking structure there. It's a church. It's a church, and this church or the Catholic church that owned it said that you could build this building as long as you built it above the church, and we could maintain our ability to build a church or reconstruct a church or whatever it was. So they have this church there. And what's interesting about it is they had to engineer this building that is the first floor is 9 stories up, which sounds insane to me. And so the challenge was they're building a building that's sitting on stilts that's 57 stories tall. When it was built, it was the 7th tallest building in the world. So what they did in order to accomplish that is they put what's called a tuned damper in it. And what that does is it allows it to counteract the forces of wind or earthquakes or anything else. And it seemed to me to be a really good metaphor for what we teach and what I want you to do with your practice, which is I want you to be very, very firm in your philosophy. Whatever your clinical, your business, your life philosophy is, I don't want you to adjust that at all in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think that's often dangerous to do. But rather, what I want you to do is be very firm in philosophy, but flexible in approach. How often do we think we have a plan in place, we're executing the plan, and all of a sudden at some point we realize the wheels are falling off the bus, something went sideways, and now all of a sudden we're in the dead of the night trying to change the plan in order to prevent and avert some massive disaster. It's just such a powerful illustration to me that I can't get over that they hung an 800-ton ball in the top of these buildings. And the one in New York, I don't know if they hung the ball because the video that I showed you was from Taipei. But it's the same thought process and design of having this dampening system that keeps things working. And when we're working with you, or when you're working on your own, or you're working on a patient, sometimes what we plan, sometimes we think we're going to do a 3-surface composite, and sometimes it ends up to be a root canal and a crown, and that's a bummer to have to tell the patient about. The philosophy is still the same, that we want to get you back to health, we want to restore your health, get you where you want, but the approach had to be adjusted because once we got in there, we realized something changed. We might end up going over the mountain, we might end up going around the mountain, we might end up having to cross a stream or two and getting wet and muddy in the process. But if we all believe the destination that we're heading, if we all believe that this is what we want to accomplish collectively, we should be able to work through this. And no different than your patient when you sit down with them and say, hey, you know what, sorry, but the treatment plan has to change because I got new information. I got new information that your decay actually is like pretty much into the pulp chamber and I don't have a choice. I got new information that while doing the implant, I actually need to do a bone graft because the information I had at the time turned out to be, a little short, a little shy, whatever the case is. And that in human behavior, it's even easier to find this out. We just need to make sure that we're firm in our philosophy, but we're flexible in our approach. And if we can do that, then we can dance together and look like a goofy ball in a 60-story building that's swaying in the top in the winds. Because the storms of life, the winds of life, the earthquakes of life are going to come. But if our foundation is strong and our foundation is certain, there's no reason why we can't dance in the rain, in the storms, and make it through this process together. Hope you enjoyed the show. I can't wait to see you next week, 8 o'clock Mountain, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Until then, have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you later. What if you could have the practice of your dreams. What's holding you back? Imagine a life where you have everything you ever wanted.